You know, a lot is happening in the polity. Either it has to do with the economy or with the politics of the economy or even the political space itself as far as representation is concerned. There's a lot to reflect on. So as we say, or as we ask often, is it a leadership challenge? Let's look at leadership this morning. And joining us to have this conversation is an international leadership development coach, author with a doctorate in educational psychology, Mr. Akomaye Ugar, who joins us virtually from Calabar, the Cross River State capital, this morning. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. Welcome.
Thank you, Bukola. Thanks for having me.
I'd like you to, first of all, inevitably reflect on some of the most recent challenges as far as political leadership is concerned. Either it's a River State or at the National Assembly and, even in Osun State where there's so many challenges. And sometimes you see these scenarios where law seems to conflict with practice or convention, as the case may be. When you see these developments, is it a legal problem or a humanity problem?
So, I believe it's a humanity problem. It is a humanity problem. We can do better, right? I believe that one of the biggest challenges with leadership in Nigeria is we put personal interest over and above common interest. And so when it's personal interest, then one will be pushing way beyond the lines of limitation, way beyond the lines of caution, because that person is just interested in making sure they get what they want and not what things should be. So that's the challenge that we have. Our leadership in Nigeria, for the most part, is quite unethical, and it's very worrisome.
And if it's a humanity problem, you can't help but also remember that it's the human beings that write the laws. Why are they unable to obey the laws that they have put down, or perhaps those who have come before them have put down, have documented as guiding ethics and ethics and codes of conduct by which to live and manage society?
Sincerely, Bukola, it's a personal thing. Anyone who wants to respect the rule of law will. Anyone who wants to follow the ethics, the code of conduct, the ethics of practice will. And anyone who does not want. We just need a new spirit of leadership in this country. We need leaders who will lead from their heart. We need people who will lead as a result of vision, right? Having a vision for the nation and not just a vision for themselves, for their pockets, to perpetuate their stay or to grow their power and influence. We need a new spirit of leadership. We need a new national orientation in this country.
So let's talk about some of the practical challenges we're dealing with and some of the practical solutions you want to bring on board. One of the challenges we have found out, people have said, because of our monarchical system, democracy is a struggle. In fact, one of the things we're dealing with right now is the issue of people vacating their seats or not vacating their seats when they defect to another political party. It's the issue of people trying to perpetuate themselves in leadership for as long as it takes and dominate as much as they can. So my question is, what, in your view, from where you sit, can we start doing right now differently to build and rebuild the mindset, first of the current leaders, and then build the mindset of the successive leadership we have? Because some people have even said this crop of leadership, we may just give up on them because they are cast in their ways. Do you agree?
Yes. We can start a reorientation. Our leaders need a reorientation. Now, the big question is who's going to speak with them? We need together to agree that there's got to be a change. There's got to be a change in how things have been done. We need to together embrace the voices and the teachers and those who have gone ahead, who still hold the national values in place, right? We have to be willing to learn from them. And then there's got to be an ongoing conversation amongst the successive leaders, the younger generation, so that there is a new spirit of leadership. Because what I have seen is that sometimes the younger generation is complaining about how things are done, and then they get into office and repeat exactly the same thing, because nothing really has changed on their inside. So we have to begin to rewire from both sides. Our leaders who are there right now, we need voices they can listen to, voices who still uphold national values, who still uphold global best practices. And then we also need to begin to teach the younger generation, culturing them and preparing them to enter into leadership positions.
One of the challenges we're dealing with, which I would like you to provide a solution as a leadership coach, is the fact that we've seen a situation where right now we have a lot of godfathers in the system. The president is also a political godfather. Since he left office, he's been instrumental to bringing on literally everybody who has been governor of Lagos State. Now, to look at what is playing out in Rivers State, it's about political godfather and political godson. And sometimes I wonder, how did we get to the place where it is a person or just a few group of persons that decides the fate of our collective at the end of the day? So if you were to provide a solution, a systemic solution to that effect, using, say, the electoral system, what will it be?
Jeffrey, that's a tough one, but yes, it's something we can start doing. I would say that it is difficult because the godfathers that we're talking about now have raised people, have put people in strategic positions, and you're not just going to take them out overnight. These people have grown, these people have gained influence with the people, but they serve the interest of a godfather. Now, so if we're going to do anything differently, we must strengthen our structures at the grassroots. We must also begin to talk to our people at the grassroots, to where at the grassroots people are not easy to buy off. Because in the Nigerian, polity, even when you know that this is a better candidate, for example, and this one is not a very good candidate, if the one who's not the very good candidate can give you something, if he can pay you, if he can reward you, if he can give money, then it means somehow he's the one preferred. We have to begin to teach our people from the grassroots that choosing the better leader is what holds the future for us. Because you finish spending what you've been given now, you vote someone who's not the better candidate, and then the polity suffers, the economy suffers, and the people eventually suffer. We need to drive that message in enough to where at the grassroots, where leadership really begins from, political leadership really begins from, that the people will know to choose, make the right choices, in spite of what kinds of incentives may be offered by those who are not the better choices. That's one place to start.
And it's a good thing that you mentioned people at the grassroots. So very quickly, let's talk about the concern there. They say that the people are deserving of the kind of leaders that they elect. So would you say it's a challenge of education? Because when we recall events that shaped the 2023 presidential election, you'd also find that, ethnicity was a divisive issue, even amongst the educated, perhaps not the elite. So what are the factors that you identify in that space with the followership themselves that we need to surmount if we must make better choices of leaders?
Okay, well, there are people who are educated but are not. In educational psychology, we were taught that learning has happened when there is a relative permanent change in behavior. So somebody can go through school, can amass degrees, but if their behavior has not altered to align with what they've been taught, learning really has not occurred. So there are people with degrees who are not really educated. So yes, it is a problem of education. That education has got to happen, and we will know that the education has happened when the behavior of the people begins to change. When we get to that place where people will say no to being bribed to vote and will go on and vote a candidate that they believe is the better candidate and someone whose ideals hold a future for them, then we can say education has happened. We really need to educate our people, because I believe that there is a lot of defect in that area.
I wonder how many years is really in between that time and now. But you talked about the need for conversations about the direction that we need to be headed should begin. And that conversation may have started from about last year at the National Assembly with proposals of consideration for parliamentary system of government that obtained in the 60s. I wonder what your thoughts are in that regard. In your view, what would be an ideal system of government that would be better suited to Nigeria as against this peculiar kind of democracy that is considered rather expensive?
Okay, Bukola, I believe very strongly that if the existing systems are strengthened and if the leaders in the different tiers of government are allowed to function, there's going to be a lot of development. There's going to be a lot of improvement. You know, I was speaking to a local government chairman recently who still said, well, you know, try to say how the money isn't coming like it should and so on. But we know that they're supposed to have autonomy, right? So if the existing systems are strengthened, if the leaders in the different tiers are empowered and are allowed to function, I believe that there will be development in different sectors. There will be development in the grassroots. But we have a system where there is still a lot of control. I mean, a lot of control from the leaders in the higher cadres, in the higher tiers of governance. But if the tiers, the different tiers, I said, are strengthened, are empowered, and are given some sort of free hand, howbeit with necessary supervision, but some sort of free hand, there will be development and things will happen differently.
Are you endorsing a continuation of this presidential system of government?
Well, my point is this presidential system of government is not altogether bad. I'm open to something new. But if this one was even done differently, as it ought, we will see a lot of improvement to where we may not be in a hurry to want to transition to another system.
So let's talk about what we're dealing with right now in terms of practice. Strong men over stronger institutions that it should be. We should have strong. In fact, if Donald Trump was a Nigerian, he would have gotten away with a lot of things, respectfully to our system. But the systems there have prevented him, even with executive powers. He's challenged in courts and all of that, and he's losing them flat at the end of the day because the American system, institutional systems, they are quite stronger than what we have today. These strong men we have in our politics and in the polity generally, because sometimes we just call politicians, but there are people behind the scene as well. They are not ready to go anywhere anytime soon. And the populace, the citizens, or the electorate as they are called, sometimes are limited in their capacity to effect the kind of change they want to effect. So what do we do differently? Maybe I'm repeating the question in a different way, to ensure that we minimize strength of men and amplify the strength of institutions?
Jeffrey, sincerely, we will need a leader who has the political will, the intestinal fortitude to effect the change. Because, like the things that you have just talked about, these systems can only be shaped, restructured by a certain class of leadership. So we will need leaders in the system who are thinking like how you and I are thinking right now, and is willing to strengthen the systems and to shape the systems to where we can have a lot more trust in the systems. Sincerely, there is not so very much in the current circumstance that the grassroots can do. We can't shape the judicial system. We can shape, but we know that if we have some kind of leader up there who is interested in repairing the damage in the systems, closing the loopholes in the systems, and getting the right people sitting in the right seats, then a change will begin. So we need leadership driven by a national vision, and we need leaders that have the political will and indeed the intestinal fortitude to push change, the kind of change that can influence everyone positively.
So let's talk about qualities of the kind of leader Nigeria needs right now. Because we vote emotionally in this country, we vote across ethnic and religious lines. Nigerians will see that this, my brother, is the worst thing that has happened to a country, and they'll give him a second term. They'll give her a second. That's how we, unfortunately, we have not gotten out of that loop, because it's our chance. We don't know when we're going to get it again. So let's just manage the crisis for as long as it lasts. I mean, across board. So in managing all of this, if you were to give us, let's say 3 or 5 qualities, I don't know the latitude you want to go, as to what we need to look out for in a leader that can change Nigeria, including our current leader, President Bola Tinubu. Maybe some of these qualities you mentioned, he may imbibe it or already has it. What will it be?
Number one, he has to be vision-driven. He has to be vision-driven, not ethnic driven. He has to be vision-driven. A leader that will bring about change must be vision-driven. Number 2, he has to be strategic. More strategic than, being interested in bringing his brothers or his sisters and all. Nigeria is blessed with human resources. We are blessed with people who are making impact in different parts of the world. I've lived in North America, of course, and here in Africa. And there are people we've met out there who are doing wonderful things everywhere, Europe, America, different parts of the world. Can we bring these people to contribute, irrespective of whether they are Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, Ibira, or whatever tribe that they are? Can we do that? So he has to be vision-driven, he has to be strategic, and he also has to have a strong political will. Because in Nigeria, the things that happen are more driven by personal interest rather than common interest, right? So it has to be more about bringing development to the people and not about doing something that will bring out contracts that will move money to someone's pocket. There should be a greater drive towards pushing for development rather than personal profit. If these 3 things are in place, the other things will follow. The other things will follow. We need a national vision. What's our national vision? If you read stories of countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, some of these countries, they had a national vision that drove them to where they are today. They moved from third world nations to first world nations. How did they do it? If you, read stories of countries, Dubai, United Arab Emirates. They have had a national vision that has been driving for tens of years. And we can see it reflected. Look at what Qatar has become today. Do we have a national vision in Nigeria? So if this leader is driven by vision, if he is strategic, and if he has a strong political will, things will definitely happen in this country, Jeffrey. We have all that it takes. We have all that it takes.
Let's look a bit more at development and what is perhaps maybe missing. And we can look at other African countries like Liberia, that has had a female president. Botswana just elected first female president. Rwanda has a healthy women representation of about 64% in parliament. But the story is a far cry here in Nigeria. What measure of development may Nigeria be missing without a healthy women representation, either in parliament or in the other corridors of power?
A lot. We're missing a lot because there's no research that has shown that capacity is dependent upon gender. Our women are loaded with potential. Our women are contributing in society. Our women are leading in industry. And it's high time we, began to think differently as a country. I believe very strongly that given the opportunity, there are many women who will contribute in such a phenomenal, a way in our nation. And in my observation of women in, leadership, I see that generally speaking, this is just my observation. Generally speaking, a woman who has capacity and who's given the opportunity to lead usually leaves behind tremendous results. I mean, I remember Dora Akomaye, and some of these people that occupied certain sensitive positions, they made tremendous impact. We have to move beyond this bias of the man is more superior. No, that is a faulty African mindset. Everyone is allowed to contribute. If you've got the solution, you should be given the opportunity. We need our women in politics, we need them in government, and we need them in different tiers of engagement in our nation. And let our women loaded with potential contribute their quota for the development of our country.
The challenges are myriad, but not as starring as how we determine them to be in our minds. I believe that's the first place the conversation begins. We want to thank you very much, Mr. Akomaye Ugar, International Leadership Development Coach, author, and with a doctorate in educational psychology, who has joined us virtually from Calabar. Thank you so much for your time on the program.
Thank you, Bukola. Thanks for having me.
There's so much more to come on the show.